So this is the application as of now. Our chat screen is looking kind of similar. We have the data also loaded and it's scrollable as well. We also have some unread count. We also have the timestamp. Hello everyone, welcome to Native Mobile Bits. I am your friend Sachin Rajput and today we are going to start the third part of our ongoing playlist where we are cloning the WhatsApp UI. And I know that some of you have reached out to me that when the third part is coming. So here it is guys, and I really appreciate the love and your support to the channel, and I am really sorry that this video took a lot of time, but from here onwards we are going to be more regular, and in today's video we are going to have a good coding session. So let's start today's video and let me show you very quickly that what we have so far, right? So we have this main activity where we have this main composable home screen, and inside this we have these two things, app bar component and tabs component. Okay, so app bar component is this one toolbar where we have this title and all, and then obviously as the name suggests, this is the tabs component where we have all of these three tabs. Now next thing we need to do is we need to implement these different screens, right? And for that, first of all, we need to create three different screen composable. So let's start from that step. All right, so let's go to UI, inside screen package. Let's create one normal Kotlin file and we can call it chats screen. Alright, and let's create a composable function. Let's name it chats screen. Okay, now inside our chat screen we need to load all of this data and everything, but for starting point first we need to create all of these different screens, then we will focus on each screen individually. Alright, so first let's create with very basic implementation. Let's take one column and let's use one modifier to take full size. Okay, and within this we can just use one text for now. Okay, that will be good enough to differentiate between these different screens. Basically the first point I want to cover here is I want to set up one horizontal view pager with all of these different screens. So our app will have one tab bar and then one view pager and both in sync, right? So that is the first point we are trying to achieve here. And let's create one preview also. So we can use preview and then we can just take composable. We can name the composable name also and append it with preview. That's the strategy we follow, and within this we can just access the composable. We can add show background as true and our preview is ready here. We can also add some kind of vertical arrangement like this, and let's use horizontal alignment also. So let's take it to center. So this is the first draft of our chat screen. At least now we have a chat screen. We need to make our chat screen look like this, right? But first let's create the remaining two screens as well. So let's come here, let's just take this and rename it with status screen, and here also let's rename it to status screen, and here as well let's use this composable, and our dummy status screen is ready as well. Let's do the same thing for our calls screen. So let's take this again, make a duplicate file of this with calls screen, and here let's replace this in this file with calls. Okay, so our calls screen is ready. We just need to rename it here as well. Okay, and let's see the preview. So our preview will be ready, and let's reset the size to just check. And yeah, now we have these three dummy screen: chat, status and calls screen. Alright, so now we need to fit all of these screen in one horizontal swipeable thing, right? It's called horizontal pager in Compose. Okay, earlier in XML we used to have view pager. It's kind of similar, so we just need to implement the horizontal pager next inside our project. Okay, So let's close all of these things. Let's open the home screen. Now in our home screen, we are going to implement one horizontal pager. And before we implement this, let's go to the declaration. We need to define few things as a parameter to this. We are going to define the page count, how many pages we want to show inside our pager, some kind of modifier, and very important, pager state. This pager state will hold the information for our horizontal pager at a given point of time. Okay, we also have multiple other things like padding, page size, and all. So let's start defining these things inside our pager. Let's take this to the next line and let's look at the design. So we are very sure that our pager should take the entire space of the screen, right? In every tab, we want to take the entire space of the screen. If we click on chat, our chat list should take the entire space. If we click on status or calls, so respective screen should fill the entire size, right? So we can just define one modifier and we can write modifier dot fill max size. Now the next thing is page count, how many pages we want to show, right? So we have this data somewhere where we have this in tabs component. We have declared one list of tabs, so we can just access tabs and it will import the respective path. Basically this is coming out of tab data and this is just a list of tabs, so we are using it. Tabs dot size is the page count we want inside our horizontal pager. That means 3 tabs are there, so we want 3 pages inside our horizontal pager. Okay, next thing is we want one pager state, right? So for this, first of all, we need to define one state. We can just use one variable and we can call it pager state, and we can access remember pager state, this one. And it is showing some kind of error because this is one experimental foundation API, so we need to opt in for that and it will just add this here. Now inside this remember pager state, we can define the initial page. That means when our application will launch and this screen will show up, which page or which tab we want to show at the launch. So here we are going to define initial page as 0 because we want to open our chat screen when our application is launched. Alright, now we can use this pager state inside our horizontal pager. Okay, and now our horizontal pager will give us one page and we can use one when expression on this page, and we can just write that if it's 0 we are going to show our chats screen, if it's 1 we are going to show our status screen, right? Chats and then status, and then if it's 2 we are going to show our calls screen, this one. Alright, now let's try to run our application and let's see how it's looking like. So our application is installed and we can see that when our application is launched, now our chat screen is showing up. If we click on this, nothing is happening. That's because as of now we have created this tab component and horizontal pager component, but we need to make sure that these two are synced together. We need to sync these two so that whenever someone is interacting with tab component, they are clicking on any tab, respective screen should be shown inside our horizontal pager. And for that, first of all, we need to make this tab component little bit dynamic because right now it does not take any parameter, it does not return anything, right? So we need to make sure that this tab component is also taking the same pager state. So whenever we are clicking something, our pager state is also updating and vice versa, right? Don't get confused. Let me show you how we can customize this. So let's click on this and let's add few parameters here. And for the first parameter, let's add initial index. This is going to be of integer type with default value 0, and we are going to use this in place of this default value. And you must be thinking that why we need this initial index here. So as of now, when we open our app, we want to show chats as the selected tab. Let's say tomorrow someone tells us I want to show the status screen or calls screen as selected whenever our application is launched. So we can pass initial index as 1 or 2, right? So making it dynamic makes more sense. And we need to click on this opt-in because this pager state is one experimental foundation API. And for the next parameter, we are going to add one callback to our home screen. Why we want to add a callback? Because let's say someone clicked any tab inside our tab component, so we want to update our parent home screen that user has selected a tab, right? And once our home screen got to know that user has selected some different tab, so we can update the screen inside our horizontal pager accordingly. Let me explain you once more. So this is the application we have. Once our application is opened by a user can click on any tab. Then our tab component will tell to our home screen that hey, here is a callback, and it takes the information that a user has selected this tab or this tab, right? Once home screen got to know, our horizontal pager will update accordingly. Let's go back to our tabs component and let's add one callback here. So we can just add one lambda on tab selected, and this is going to take the tab index, and its return type is going to be unit. Okay, so it's like we have one lambda on tab selected, and whenever our tab will be selected, we will just add on tab selected here, and we will pass the selected index. Okay, so whenever any tab will be clicked, we will pass that clicked tab position inside this lambda, and this will return to home screen. Now let's go to our home screen and pass these required parameters inside our tabs component. So the first parameter we need is the pager state, let's say, and we can pass this one. Then we need the initial index, and we can pass as 0, for example, because we have this initial page here. We can also define one constant, let's say initial screen index, and let's define as 0. Let's pass it here and here as well. We can take this out inside tab data. Let's add it here. Let's make it one constant because we are not going to change this, and now we can use inside our home screen by importing it. And let's minimize this. And the next parameter we have is on tab selected. This is the lambda we have as of now, right? Let's check this. We have initial index pager state and on tab selected, and inside our home screen, let's take this here, this one here, and inside on tab selected, we want to just change the pager to the respective screen, right? So we want to make sure that our horizontal pager has the updated information, and for that we can use pager state because our horizontal pager rely on our pager state. So we can just take this pager state here, and we can use this method animate scroll to page, and we can just pass, either we can pass it here or we can just take here selected page, and we can just pass it here. But you must be noticing that we have one error, and if we read this error, it is saying that animate scroll to page, it is a suspend function, and suspend function we should call from another suspend function or from another coroutine. If you are not familiar with coroutine or suspend function, just comment down in this video's comment section and let me know that should I make videos on coroutines and flows as well. Okay, for now we are going to define one scope, and to define a scope we can just use, remember, coroutine scope, this one, and then we can just take this here dot launch, and this is basically one suspend function itself. Okay, you can just check that this is a suspend function, and it is saying the same thing, that this function should be called from another coroutine or another suspend function. So we can just take this line and add it here. Now that error is gone, let's try to run our application and let's see what happens next. Now if we select the second tab, our screen is changing. See, if we select this, our screen is changing. If we click on this, again our screen is changing. Now we have achieved one functionality. Now our horizontal pager is respecting the events user is performing on our tabs component. In simple words, now our horizontal pager screen is changing whenever user is interacting anywhere on this tab component. If user select any different tab, our horizontal pager is respecting that and changing the screen accordingly, like this. Now one another part of the functionality we need to implement, where our tab component should respect the swipe gesture of our horizontal pager. User can also swipe the pages, right? User can just swipe it like this and go to different screen, and that time our tab component should also select the respective tabs. Like if user swiped our screens and reached on chat screen, at this time our chats tab should be shown as the selected tab. And for that we need to make sure that our tabs component is observing this pager state. Alright, so whenever someone will swipe, our pager state will change, and we need to make sure that we are listening to the updated value of pager state inside our tabs component as well. So to do that, we need to add one launched effect, this one, and we need to remove this, and we need to add pager state here. Now what it means, launched effect is basically we are observing the change in this value and we want to execute some piece of code. So we can say that this launched effect is basically observing the value we passed here inside this launched effect, and then it will execute some piece of code what we are going to write here. Now inside here we are going to create one snapshot flow, and what value we need to pass inside our flow? Our pager state dot current page. So this snapshot flow will create a flow of our pager state current page, and then it will emit the flow. So we need to collect it, and once it emits the current page value, it will immediately completes. Okay, so we are just going to collect it, collect latest, and inside here we are going to update the selected index first with it, or we can also access it via page, and like this we can also use it like this. And then we also need to call this method that on tab selected, and we are going to pass this selected index. That's it. So now let me tell you once again what we did here. We created one launched effect. Now if you are not familiar with launched effect, this is basically one observant, you can say. So we are just observing some value, and this launched effect will execute this piece of code whenever this pager state value will change. Okay, now inside this block, whenever we will come here, we are creating a flow. This snapshot flow will emit the pager state's current page, and then it will complete immediately, and eventually we will collect it, which we will collect here, and we are going to update the value of our selected index. And this selected index, you can see that we are using inside our tab row, and based on this selected tab index we will just show the tabs selected or not, like which tab is selected at the moment. So let's run the application and let's see if our change is working fine. So as of now, if we swipe it, we can see our tab is also changing. If we swipe it back, our tab is updating. So now if we click here on tab component, our horizontal pager is respecting it, and if we swipe inside our horizontal pager, our tab component is respecting it. So now our tab and horizontal pager both are in complete sync. Now we are good to go to update our screens. Let's minimize this and let's go to chat screen. Let's close everything else. Now we are going to implement this chat list. So first of all, we want to make sure that we have some kind of chat list. And to define a chat list, first of all, we need to define the chat model, right? How one message is going to be, or how one chat data class is going to be, right? So let's define one domain layer where we are going to define some models, and then we will define some data source. All right, so let's go back to our project structure, and we have this data layer already. Let's create one domain layer as well, and inside this domain layer we are going to define one chat object entity, like how one chat data class should look like, right? So for that we can define one data class. Let's call it chat list data object. Okay, so this is going to be one data class entity, and it is going to contain a lot of things. Let's say it is going to have one chat ID, and it is going to be of integer type. And let's look at the design to understand what data we need for our chat list. So inside our chat list we should have one user image and user name. We should be having some timestamp. We should also be having some unread message count if it's there. We should be having some delivered or not delivered, these kind of status for the last message. We should be having the last message content, and we should be also having some idea that last message is of audio type, video type, image type, or text type, or it can be location type as well. So we need to make sure we have these kind of things, right? So let's go back and let's define one message, and we are going to define one data class for this, and we are going to call it message. And inside this we are going to define what data we need inside a message object. Okay, so every message should be having some kind of content of string type, and it should be having some kind of delivery status as well. Delivery status can be different, right? So it can be either delivered, no delivered, some error was there, someone already read that message or not. So we can define one enum, and let's call it message delivery status. This is going to be one enum. So let's define one, and value of this should be delivered, if message is delivered or not. And if someone already read the message, it should be this. And if message is sent but it's not yet delivered, then it's in pending state. And if some error is there, so obviously we have some error. All right, now there should be something called message type, right? So for this also we can define one enum, because message can be of different type. So let's define another enum, message type. It can be text message, there can be some audio message, video, and image, and location, and some other types can be there. Let's remove location also for now. Alright, so we have this here, and for message we are also going to have timestamp. And for now let's keep it as a string type, because we are just going to have some dummy data. Alright, we can use message class here like this. So we have chat ID, then we have message object which has so many things here. We can also have some username of string type and some user image which can be a URL, so again a string type. Okay, and I know that in real world chat SDKs the chat models will be very different, because when I have implemented Twilio and some other chat SDK, I have seen that We have something called conversations, channel, and each of these things will have respective participants and their respective data. But for now, just to show a simple overview how we can design the chat application using Jetpack Compose, we are keeping our data class very simple and it will fulfill the need for us to get this kind of data. Alright, so this is our data class. Now we are going to define one data source because now we have the data class, how our data should look like. Now let's create a list out of it to show this kind of list. Okay, so for that we can just go to data class, we can just click on one Kotlin file and we can call it chat list data source. But obviously for now I'm not going to use view model and all, so I'm just creating one list and it's called chats. Well, let's call it chat list and it is going to be a list of, we are just going to take our data object, we are going to add it here and we can add here the object like this. So first of all, let's add one chat ID. For example, it's one for now. And the next thing we need is one message. So we can just add one message object and inside message object we can just add some content. So let's add something from here. Okay, this is probably not very good, so let's add good morning. This is one chat message content and timestamp we can add it, how it's looking like. Okay, they just have the dates, so we can just add 27/02 2023, something like this. Then we are going to add some type, so we can just take from our enum that this is one text type and we can add another last thing, timestamp we already did. We need delivery status. Okay, so message delivery status delivered, this is one thing. Then another thing we need to add inside our chat list, username. So we can just take something Virat Kohli and some user image which I will just add after defining this. And similarly we can add some more objects. So if you notice, here are some dummy objects I created with the help of ChatGPT and it has some dummy text which I wanted. So we are having Avengers and Harry Potter theme messages. But let's do one thing, instead of having this user image, because I am not sure how to find at the internet all of these kind of images, so what I am going to do is I'm going to change the user image type to int and we are going to have some kind of drivers. So let's modify this and let's add few dummy items. So we can just go here, vector asset, we can just choose. So let's take some user, this one we can take and let's add it IC user. Okay, and finish. So let's remove this user image field from everywhere and in the model we can just add the default value r.driver. After importing this r, we will be able to use this image IC user. It should look like this. So let's add it here. Alright. Okay, so our chat list data source is ready. So you can see that it has a chat list. Now let's go to chats screen and let's close all the other tabs. Let's minimize this. And inside our chats screen, we can access the data from chat list data source, right? We need this chat list. Now let's go to the design and let's see what we need. So this is the chat list screen and this is a list, right? So in Jetpack Compose we can use lazy column to define a list. So let's update this screen. Let's remove all of this dummy thing and we can directly use lazy column here. Okay, let's remove this and let's use this lambda. Inside our lazy column we can just use one modifier and we just need to take the full space and then we are going to use the horizontal alignment alignment dot start, because we want the list to start from here itself. Now the next thing is we can add some kind of space with the help of item, and let's say we are going to add one spacer, and it is going to be some height, let's say 10 dp. Some space will be there on the top of this list. Okay, here some space will be there. Now let's open this, let's hide this one. So we have added one lazy column, and at the top we have added one item which is just one empty space. Then below this we are going to use items, and we are going to use chat list here, which is coming out of data source. Now we want to show all of this dummy data inside chat screen like this. So we can just take this chat list and use items and pass the chat list after importing it, and we just need to add this lambda. Now we can create one another composable, and we are going to call it chat list item. Basically how our chat list item row should look like. So there is one image, then username, some timestamp, and message content and all. We have these things, right? So for this chat list item we can use row composable, and we can pass this chat list item here, and let's take chat data one by one. For each item we will just add as a parameter. Now we have this composable function where we have chat data for one item. Like this we will be having one object, so we need to define the composable item for this chat row. So now let's start implementing this row composable for a single item of our chat list. Alright, so let's go to our project structure, and inside UI we have this components. So let's create one new file and let's call it user image, and let's create one composable function. Let's call it user image. Let's use this first inside our chat screen. So inside our row composable, first thing we need one user image. And why we are using row composable? Because everything is in horizontal orientation, these things, right? We have one image, then we have something and something. So first thing we are having this image, and we created one separate composable for this, and let's pass the icon with the help of user image like this. Add the parameter, and boom, we have the data here. Alright, so inside our image, let's say we are going to use the icon composable, and we can use this painter because we are having this as the integer type. So we can just utilize painter resource and we can pass user image. Alright, and content description we can just pass empty for now. Let's add a modifier for this. So let's take modifier, and we can just take modifier dot size. Let's say 60 dp we want, something like that. Okay, let's add quickly one preview just to see how it's going to look like. Let's add it here like this, and inside let's access user image, and let's pass the default thing which we passed, driver. We need to import this R, and we can just take IC user. We added show background as true. Now let's see how our preview is going to look like. So this is how our image is going to look like, and we can see that it's updating because we have a lot of data, more than 14 items, and that's why our list is populating with this row composable, which is just having this image as of now. So we should be having some kind of padding, horizontal padding we can give to our lazy column. Here it is. So let's add, take this to the next line, and let's add padding. Horizontal is, let's say 16 dp we are adding it. Okay, so some space will be there. from start and end to our list. Yeah, our list is updated and it is fine. We have some space here. And for top and bottom, we can add inside the chat list item. Okay, so let's add here one modifier as well, and we can just use modifier dot fill max width. We can just take the full width and then we can add some padding, and this time let's say vertical 8 dp. Okay, so some space will be there in between, so we can see that our list is updated and we have some space and it's looking much better now. Now let's look at the design once again. Now we need these details where username, timestamp and all these things will be there. And for that, let's create another composable. Let's go to component and let's create another Kotlin file where we'll create this new composable function, and we are going to call it user details. And here we are going to create one composable function. Let's call it user details. Let's take this and go back to our chat screen, add it here, and here let's pass complete chat data. Whatever we'll need, we'll just access there. Alright, so we came here. Let's add one preview. Let's take this one and inside preview let's access user details. Okay, and we can just take one dummy data from here for our preview, add it here. And for our preview, let's add show background as true. Now let's look at the design. So we have these patterns, so either we can take one row composable and then we can take two column, right? Or we can just take one column and inside that we can just take two row composable. One will be this much, the top header of the message, and then another one will be this bottom section of the message. And let's go with this two row approach only, like one row will be this much and another one will be this much inside a column. So we can just take one column composable and we can just give one modifier here. Let's say modifier dot wrap content height, and we can also add some kind of padding because here there is some space in between, right? Here we can see this is some space, so we can just add with the modifier dot padding and we can add in the starting, let's say 16 dp. So only in the starting there will be some space. We can add some kind of alignment and arrangement. So let's say we are adding horizontal alignment, alignment dot start, because we want to just start from the very beginning, and then for vertical we want to keep it in the center, like it should be in the center of the row composable. Okay, now we need to design these two row composable, these two. Alright, so let's call this top row as message header, and this one, what we should call it? Should we call it message subsection? Let's do that. Okay, so we are going to create one another composable with message header, and then there will be one another row message subsection. Message header is this much, okay, and subsection is this much. Alright, these are two row composable. So let's take this, minimize it. So let's add one composable first, message header, and another one message subsection. Okay, and for both of these let's add preview also now itself. So let's add preview, show background as true, and message header preview. Inside we just need message header and one another preview for message subsection. We can just take this. Okay, so we have some previews. For now we will just minimize everything. Previews are minimized. Then we have these two composable as well. Alright, so these are basically two row composable. So let's start defining message header, this one, and this is going to be one row composable. Alright, and inside these two row there are different size of text, and some text are bold, some are normal, and some are of different color, green color, black color, and so on, right? So let's design one text component and we will reuse that based on our need. Okay, so let's go to our components, and here let's create text component, and here let's create one composable. Let's call it text component, and inside our text component we can just reuse one text composable which we have previously implemented, and we will customize it from there. If you have not seen this, you can just see the first part of this series, and we are just going to use this one for now. Okay, so we can just pass some kind of value to this, and let's add value as a parameter, and this value will be shown in place of this. Alright, now let's try to go back and reuse this text component, and let's see what else we want to customize. Okay, let's take this and go back to our chat screen. From here go to our user details, from here to message header. Alright, inside here we can just use the text component and we need to pass some value. So for that, for now let's add chat data as the parameter in both of these composable. Okay, so we have added here. Inside message header also we have added chat data as the parameter. Now from chat data we can access the username. Okay, now let's see our what is the error we are getting. Let's try to fix that. Okay, so we don't have the dummy data, right? So we can just pass this one in both of these preview sections. Okay, and let's open the preview that how our component is looking like for now. So we can just minimize this one. So we can see that this size is little bit bigger. It should be around 16 or 18 sp. So now let's try to customize it. Okay, so right now it is having 20 sp. Let's pass another parameter. We need font size equal to 18 sp. Okay, let's import this and let's add this as a new parameter. So now we have the font size. We need to use this font size. Let's try to reduce the size little bit. Let's say 14 sp, and we will also pass here one color. So we can just say material theme dot color scheme dot primary. Okay, we can just add this as the new parameter to our function, and we can just use this color. Alright, and we can use one another text component for this timestamp. Alright, so let's add it, and inside text component we can just take message dot timestamp. Okay, let's reduce this, and for this timestamp we should reduce the size to, let's say, 12. Here we are going to use at least 16 for now, and this we are going to just use secondary. Alright, so we can see that we have two text composable, but these two are not vertically aligned because size is different. So we can just add vertical alignment as center vertically, and then both of these text will be vertically aligned. Now we can see that both of these texts are in the center, but there should be some space in between, right? So we can use modifier with weights. So we can just add modifier, and we can just pass as modifier dot weight 1, and we can add this as the new parameter inside our text component. And here we can just set modifier equals to modifier, whatever we are passing from there. Okay, and here we no need to pass, only at one place we need to pass, and another one should be just null. So let's make it nullable. So the moment we made this modifier as nullable, we can see that it is showing us one error that we cannot use it because modifier should not be null. So we can either surround it with if else, but suppose if we send this modifier as null from this text, so that text will also not be shown. So let's take this and add one else case, and here let's remove this modifier. Okay, now it should be fine. Now let's refresh and see that how our message header is looking like. So we can see that now we have some text. At the starting we have this text, and then we have some timestamp as well. Okay, so let's go back to our list and let's see how our list is looking like now. So that should be our chat list screen. So it's refreshing, and we can see that now we have some kind of data at least, right? So we have the name and we have the date. It's looking nice, right? So now let's go to the design, and we need to implement this second row as well, right? So we can just go to user details again, and inside message subsection we just need to reuse this. So we can just copy it for now, add it here, and for the first thing we need to show the description. So we can just take message dot content, and for second one we have the unread count. Alright, so do we have the unread count? We don't. So let's add here, well, unread count, and this is going to be of type integer. It can be null as well. Okay, and let's define with null. So here we can just take unread count. If it's null, then empty. So as this is an integer, we need to convert to a string, and then it will be fine. So as we recently added this unread count, let's try to update this at few places, right? So let's take this and go inside chat list data source and try to add at few places, right? So at first let's add unread count as 0 or null. Okay, and in few other things let's add here also null because message delivery status is read, and here we can make it as 1. Here also let's add at 6. Now let's go to our chats screen, and it's refreshing. So our preview is loaded now. We can see that we are seeing the name, message content, timestamp, and some unread count. But one thing we can improve, we should not show this null if the count is null, right? Okay, so we just need to add it here, one null label check. Okay, now if we just go to our chat list screen, so if the unread count is null at any given row, so there it should not be shown. Okay, so the preview is updated, and we can see that if we have some actual unread count, then only it's shown. Let's just open the code, and our project is installed on the emulator. So we can see that we have some kind of chat here, right? And it's looking much better than before, but we can still improve it, and we are going to definitely improve it. So what we should do here is we should at least change the text style and all. So we can see that it's in black or primary color, and it is little bold kind of text, right? So we can just go here in user details, and inside message header we can just increase the text size little bit, first of all 18 sp, and we need to make it bold. So we can just define here font weight, and we can just use font weight dot semi bold, for example, and let's add this as a parameter. We no need to define here. Let's go to text component, let's make it as nullable, and we are going to just use font weight as, let's add one default value, right? So we will not be able to pass null and all, normal, and we can just use it inside font weight here also. Okay, and let's go back. Let's not pass if we don't want to pass. Now let's run again and let's see if it's updated. So we can see that it's updated, but both of these texts are updated. Why so? Because okay, here also we don't need to pass. It's added by default when we added this new parameter, right? Okay, now it's fine. Now we need to change some color. So let's go to the design. It should be black first of all. So for now I am using default color. We will add it in the theme later on in enhancement part. So here let's use color dot black, and for description we can use color dot gray for the message, basically this one. This timestamp should also be in color dot gray. We have this counter, right? Let's reuse it from our tabs component. So we have this counter, and this is the unread count, right? Yes, this one. So let's extract this one and add inside components as a file. Let's call it circular count, and let's make it as a composable. Let's call it circular count, and inside this add the code. This we need, so we need unread count value, and we can just use it first of all in the tab section. Dot to string like this, and first of all let's run so that we verify that this tab count is as it is. So now let's try to reuse this, and let's close all the tabs. Let's go to chat screen, and inside chat screen we have this user details. Then in subsection we have this text component, right? So let's reuse here circular count, and it will just take unread count. So we can just take this value here and pass it to this. We can see that it's updating, but because the background color is white we cannot observe. So let's try to make it dynamic. Let's pass some background color from here, and for now we are just using normal color. So color dot green, and let's add it as a parameter, and let's use this background color in place of this in background extension. Okay, and we also need the color for text, because if we are passing the background color green it should be green, but let's see from the second place we need to pass from here white. So here we are just passing as it is what we had there. Let's refresh once to see if tabs are fine. So our tabs are fine. Now we need to change this text color also. So let's add one text color, and let's pass color dot white, Let's add this as a parameter. Let's use this text color. And from our tabs, we need to pass the primary color for now. Okay. So now let's try to run the application and let's see how our application is looking like. Okay, so it's updating, but we need to make sure that if there is no count, there is no circular text also, right? So we can just add this condition here itself, that if unread count is not null, then only we will show this, else we will not show it. Okay, so we can update it like this, and here we can just use it, and it will not be null. So we can see that now only when we have some unread count we are getting this unread count. So I am observing one another thing here, like if we have some unread messages, this unread counter and the timestamp, this date should also be greenish, right? So this is our timestamp. Let's add one condition here in place of this color, that if we have chat data dot message dot unread count greater than 0, let's add this in if condition, then the color will be color dot green, else the color will be gray. Okay, alright. So we have added the null support as well, that if it's null then by default the value will be 0, so the default color will be gray. And now our screen is updating once again. So actually this color is not looking very nice, and I got one color from the internet. Let's close all the files. Let's go to color.kt, highlight green, and this will be a color of this code, and we are going to use this one. So let's go to user details, and in place of color.green let's use our own color. So in place of green color, let me again use this. Are we having green somewhere? Yeah, we have it here as well. Okay, now let's try to run the application. Yeah, now it's much better, right? So this is the application. As of now, our chat screen is looking kind of similar. We have the data also loaded, and it's scrollable as well. We also have some unread count. We also have the timestamp. We have all of these things ready. I think we can quickly add the status and calls screen in the next parts of this playlist. And that's it friends for today's video. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Also please share this video with your friends and with your LinkedIn network, and please comment down your favorite part, or just comment down for YouTube algorithm, and I will see you in the next video very soon. Till then, take care, be happy.